a short story by Paul McCann entitled The Keeper of Baughavilla. Little Jimmy was part of a poor family who never had some of the comforts that most other families took for granted. Yet Jimmy never complained. He remained content with his life. His biggest love was football, and each Sunday he would go to the local foothills near Baughavilla Mountain, where the steelworkers' factory team always played in the local competition. It was always a hard-fought game, and the result usually a tight one. Most of the older men got to know young Jimmy, and every game they let Jimmy kick the ball around for a while. Some people began to notice the talent in Jimmy's feet as he weaved in and out between the bricks on the pitch and swerved around the invisible players in his imagination until he cracked the ball into the top corner of the net. Jimmy would always go home happy each Sunday evening after the match. On the day that Jimmy turned 10, his heart leapt when his family presented him with his very first ball of his very own. Jimmy was overjoyed, and all day he played, kicking the ball against the old factory wall, dreaming of greatness, and living out this new experience with his very own football. What a great birthday Jimmy had. Sunday came around quickly, and Jimmy took his ball to the match, and after the game he proudly kicked the ball onto the field. He got so caught up with himself in the game that he never saw the couple of boys that came up behind him, and there was nothing he could do to stop them as they stole his ball. "Let go! Give me ball back!" said young Jimmy. "Listen to the baby cry," said the three bullies. The three men stuck a penknife into the ball and burst it before he gave it back, and they walked away, leaving little Jimmy in tears. But little Jimmy picked a few stones up from the pitch and threw them at the tough guys, saying, "I remember you, and you'll be sorry for what you've done." The stones just grazed their heads as they turned and ran after little Jimmy, who fled like a bunny rabbit chased by a bloodhound. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, a hand grabbed him. "Quiet! Keep down!" a soft voice whispered. The three bullies ran past. "Who are you?" little Jimmy asked. "I'm the Keeper of the Bog, one of the fairy folk, friend of footballers and guardian of children, and the wish granter of time, both past, present, and to come. I saw what just happened there, and I'd be happy to give you something for your trouble," said the tiny little man. "I wish I had my ball back," said little Jimmy, with the tears in his eyes. "Say no more," the friendly fairy said, and with the click of his fingers, Jimmy disappeared into the bog, feet first. Once he began to feel afraid, but the little fairy took him by the hand and said, "Kick your feet." Sure enough, Jimmy found he was swimming underneath the bog in a great big pink pool. Suddenly he felt himself being lifted into the air. He looked up to see a giant who held him in his hand like a toy.
"Well, what's your name, little one?"
said the giant. "Jimmy's the name. What's yours?"
"My name? I'm the giant," Turan.
And the fairy said, Turan, Jimmy needs a new ball. And there, at the feet of the large giant, the large hands reached down and plucked up the little fairy.
So, Wish Grunter, it's you again. How's everything above in the bog?
The little fairy jumped high up in the air and landed on top of the head of the giant and slid down onto his shoulders. Then he took a good look into the giant's eyes and said, Things aren't the best, my friend. 3 bully boys just stole little Jimmy's ball, and they were ready to punch him up.
Said the giant. If I ever get my hands on them...
Now, calm down, Turan. We don't need any trouble. Remember the last time you lost your temper? You started a landslide, and above in the foothills of the bog, it took 6 months to clear up. The giant said, slowly making his way over to a great wooden door with great big handles, and the giant pulled the door open and said, In there, little Jimmy. Have a look, and you will find what you're looking for. What's in there? Said Jimmy.
That's where all the lost balls are kept. Other things as well, like kites that have been broken, balloons that have blown away in the wind, coins that have been lost. In fact, anything that's been lying around the bog over the years you'll probably find in there, said the giant. And the tiny fairy interrupted. That's one job I do, you see. I find the lost things, Jimmy, and I bring them here, where Turan looks after them. Then, when it's someone's turn to get a wish, I have everything here they need. Little Jimmy went in through the door, and there, before his very eyes, there were balls, both big and small, of every colour, plastic and pigskin, rubber and leather. Jimmy's eyes popped out of his head. He took a few up and bounced them, and kicked them, and threw them up in the air. Finally, he found one that he liked. It looked almost like the one that he had got for his birthday. He put it under his arm, had a look at it, checking it out, and then walked out through the large door again. But as soon as he got to the other side of the door, he found himself back up on the football pitch, kicking the ball up into the air. And he trapped it under his hip, and he kicked it up the ground, and turned sharply, fired a right-foot thunderbolt into the top corner of the net. And a man who was watching on the sidelines began to clap furiously. Jimmy kept dribbling the ball, and the man called him over to the sideline. Hey, boy, come here. Can I have a word with you? Come on. Jimmy dribbled the ball over to the man. What do you want, mister? Said Jimmy. I want you, son. I want you. You to play for the big team next week. I think you're really something. You've got something in the making, boys. Let me tell you, I've got plans for you. Come next Sunday with your boots. You'll not regret it, said the man, who turned and walked away. And Sunday came, and little Jimmy played the first match on the big pitch, and he scored a hat-trick of goals, and soon was playing for the Major League. Jimmy became one of the greatest players ever to have come out from Baughavilla. And his name was splattered across local newspapers, and he was heard on all radio stations all around the country.
little Jimmy from Baughavilla, the boy from the little place who made his name, and at 21 was the highest paid footballer in the world. Not many people ever believe the story about the keeper of the bog, but Jimmy does, and Jimmy never lets anyone forget it. So don't worry about losing anything, because they're always well kept and looked after. For Jimmy knew only too well how his thing had come through in life, and he had captured his dream. And that is the end of the story about Jimmy and the boy who made it big from the foothills of Baughavilla.